Hello to the Pursuit of Truth. It is the 11th, of September 2018. Something I've noticed, and I don't know if this is going to keep cropping up, is the anti-Pete Shea feeling that I'm getting. On Jamie Brown, where obviously Pete Shea is quite a familiar person to most people who go to Jamie Brown's YouTube channel, he was attacked by, I think it was Paul. And it started off, I've already mentioned, I think, didn't I already mention about this, and started off with a conversation, then it sort of went into that, and then on Beyond the Imaginary Curve on Saturday, Pete Shea was on Dell's Beyond the Imaginary Curve, and he got took down as well. I know I've just talked about that previously. So I don't know what, it just seems a bit, is it coincidental that two people are attacking him? And, I understand Pete Shea, sometimes he has, how can I put this, quite out there theories, ideas. Now, whether you believe them or not, I don't think, if we're all on the same page, I'm not really sure why the attacking goes on. So, it just, I don't know, we see this a lot in the flat earth arena. Well, it's not just the flat earth arena, it happens all around the world through different subjects, isn't it? It doesn't matter, there's always like people against each other. I guess it's a human failing. So maybe I'm wasting my breath talking about something that's just about personalities and people having different visions of what they're going for. But I did understand what Pete was trying to say about the idea of beyond flat earth, the bigger picture. And I know he talks about this, and he talks about different things as well, Aristarchus and actors playing lead roles, like real actors playing fictional characters. And irrespective of that, I mean, there's some things we can never prove, and some things we'll never know. Yeah, it seems fanciful, but it's not impossible. But it doesn't matter whether or not you believe it or not. We know the corruption that's going on and the injustice that's going on in this world. And I do agree with him when he says we have to look beyond flat earth. And I know that obviously each person has their own channel and their own voice and their own, like some people will just dedicate their whole YouTube channel to flat earth. Some will veer into different areas as well. So yeah, I understand that. So it's up to each person to have their own voice. But I do understand that sometimes it does get frustrating. When I hear people talking about things, and then, I've mentioned this previously, that, when they you should be, try and be positive and all this kind of stuff. And like I mentioned, the suffering that's going on, the injustice that's going on, the fact that, yeah, I understand when the flat earth is important. It has been important to me. It's empowered me more than the conspiracy side of things. Yeah, that made me question things. I've always questioned things. I've always had different views than most people. Since watching the film 1984, reading the book, being interested in H.G. Wells and War of the Worlds, which, a lot of these, when they're made into films, if you've seen the films, they're nothing like the books. They miss out the whole point of the author's message. Like War of the Worlds, it mentions a lot about the difference of classes, and it talks about how when man is, when Martians come, that the rich and the poor, they were treated like they died alike. There's a lot of, same with 1984 and Animal Farm, they sanitize them when they make them into films. They just look for the entertainment. They don't look for the message. And I know it's different because a film is difficult to make a film of a book where the book is a lot about thoughts and ideas. But it's a shame that no one bothers to try and actually adapt these things as they are, giving a true adaptation. Whether you think it's boring or not, sometimes it doesn't matter whether it's boring. If it's got an important message, sometimes that's important to get across. And that's why these authors wrote these things. Not all of them wrote them for money or for entertainment. So, yeah, I understand how it gets frustrating when you hear people constantly, on the same track and not moving apart from it. Yeah, I know. Obviously, like me, I talk about things. I talk about different things. I'll keep coming back to flat Earth, to conspiracies, to the existence, and all that kind of thing. But we've got to remember that we were born, and we've been taught everything we know, and we're living this. That we all agree, I'm sure, all truthers, flat Earthers, no matter what, we all must agree, surely, that the world we're living in is not a great existence. We're surrounded by lies, whether it's lies of the shape of the earth, whether it's lies of what government is really up to, who's involved in these things, why we're being taught these things at school, why things are not being taught at schools, like the trivium and all that kind of stuff. And the crux of this matter is from birth and our identity as us, that we are born blank sheets. There are certain things, I don't know which things, if left alone we would do ourselves, but a majority of everything is taught to us. And yeah, maybe some of this is through evolution, through time, and yeah, it has its place. Like, we need to communicate, no one would argue with that. But whether we need like 1,000 different languages across 1,000 different places, well, I don't know. But just the idea of us, we're wasting our time. That's the most important thing every single day. And yes, I can understand how some people may think that, so maybe some of this is a distraction. That we're being kept in a place, talking about flat Earth, talking about 9/11. The people who are conspiracy theorists, they won't venture onto flat Earth because they believe that it's a way to distract you from what governments are getting up to. And the flat earthers, they don't want you to look beyond flat Earth because they want to keep you looking at that. So you can see that, is it intentional gatekeeping or is it accidental? Is it because people are on a different journey? Some people, maybe they've given up trying. Like I feel sometimes that it's an impossibility to try and change this existence. Everything we see and we do, the way we look, the way we interpret things, all of that has been taught to us, and to undo that is a difficult thing, and to know which things should we keep and which shouldn't we keep. And no matter what we do, we'll still be living in some form of construct, because I don't know, I'm assuming our natural us was like an animal, isn't it? If you look at all the animals, they don't communicate in the same way. So is that our natural us as well? I guess the thing is I think, yeah, we do need to always be looking at different avenues and trying to solve the problem. Like Dad was saying, that it's also important, once you know the truth, to do something about it. And that's the most difficult thing, I think, personally, I find. Maybe it's also because I'm not really a great confident person. But, all the thing I can do is making these podcasts, is making these thoughts, and by continuing to listen to other people and growing and getting more empowered. But yeah, I don't know what is the answer to solving this problem of getting people to understand the truth, getting people to change their ways. How do we go about doing that? Like activism, that's going to take too long. We can't, if the only way that we can change, like if we're going to all stick to flat Earth, and we've got to convince everyone, 7 billion people, that the Earth is flat, how many years is that going to take? That could take like thousands or hundreds of years. This story's been going on for thousands of years as it is. And then when will we get to actually the injustices and inequalities? Sometimes I think, yeah, each thing is important. It's like a jigsaw. They all fit together. But the people suffering, the ones that are suffering by the system that we're all living in, I worry about, shouldn't they be more of a priority? The fact that the Earth is flat or not, the fact that governments lie or not, yeah, we all know all this stuff. At the end of the day, what will it change to know whether the Earth is flat or round? Yeah, it means that we've been lied to. It means there may be more to the things that are around, the areas that may be hidden from us. It means that maybe our identity is different than we thought. Were we created? We're already believing that anyway. Some people, I know, they say that, if we found out that the Earth is flat, then it means there's a creator. Well, most people believe in that anyway, so that I don't think is is not a true argument, but it might enforce it. It might make everyone believe in the fact that we have a creator, because there is nothing around. But we don't know that. We don't know about space. We don't know about all those things. We don't know what to believe, what we've been taught, what is true and what is not. But we all do know that we're living in a system that is failing us at different degrees. Now, us in the West, it may be failing us in lies, in slavery, in the sense that we're controlled. We need passports. We need to say yes sir, no sir. We need to do some of those things we need, because we are not a perfect people. But then I don't know, is that because of the way we're taught not to be perfect people? I don't know, because everything we acknowledge, everything that's about us, most of it's taught. So that's where I sort of agree with what Pete was saying, that we've got to look at the bigger picture, because we can't. I mean, if there are people out there suffering because of this game we're all playing, this, legal name fiction, whatever you want to call it, this way of life, this system, how our species is defined. Every country on the world, they all play the same game, whereas they own the bit of land that they're upon. They all have schools, they all have governments, they all have police, they all have education, they all have books, they all have communication, they all have languages, they all have societies, they all have all these things that are all fictional, they're all made up. If we all started our own island, Flat Earth Island, we could then do the same thing. We could teach people the trivium, you could teach people the earth is flat. You wouldn't even need to prove it, you could just teach it to them, and then they would all grow up believing in it, whether it's true or not. But the thing is, what I'm trying to say is that we need to solve this problem of, I think if we solve this problem, it would solve everything else. But the thing is, whether it's possible, maybe that's the reason why people don't want to go into this avenue. Because to solve this problem at the beginning of who we are, that we are a species that is blank, and that we are taught through time and location our identities by our predecessors. So I guess the problem is how do we know what is natural and what's not natural? Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe there are some things we need. Like, we could say that, if we were out in the jungle, we'd be like apes, we'd be swinging around, we'd be eating, but we wouldn't be communicating. But do we want to live like that? There are certain things we want to live as a society, I would assume, because that's enabled us to do so much more than animals have been able to do, by communicating, by building, and this, that, and the other. But I think we've got to do it for our whole species, rather than sectoring ourselves off into different locations and saying, this is mine, this is mine. We need to be working together. If we did all that, and we acknowledged that we were going to follow truth, that we wouldn't lie to each other about the shape of the earth, that we wouldn't have the need of money, which is a lot of the reason, like the reason for most of the lies, the most corruption in governments, in day-to-day life, and the fact that you can't afford things, and the fact that you're not able to do things, is through two things: money and power. Eradicate those two things, or alter them in a way that they're not so negative. Do we need money? Money is just a way to keep us all in a game. We don't need money. Do we need power? Well, maybe we do need something to enforce this as a species, because you can't have just all of us running around making up our own decisions. But that's where it gets grey area, and then we start going down the same path we've already been. So maybe it's an impossibility to have a species that is evolved enough to love each other and to work together. I'm not talking about unity or kumbaya before someone sort of tries to make out that. I'm talking about us as a species actually knowing truth, following truth, having a better way of life so that everyone doesn't suffer. Because we do all suffer to various degrees. Us in the West, we suffer with, governments, with their corruption, with the lies, with the inability to do the things that we want to be able to do. We've been born on this planet. The most beautiful thing in the world is our birth, that we're given a chance to live, to breathe, to think, to do all these things, and we're confined because of the game we're playing, a game that's unnecessary. We have invisible chains that are keeping us locked to those old-fashioned ideas And that's why I do agree in some way with what Pete's saying, that we do need to be aware. And I think Dal, he is aware of these other bits. But maybe, he's seeing that the flat earth is the key to that. And I do understand that because, like I said, in my journey, it came from, I was very skeptical of things and always wanting to know things and truth and stuff like that. And it led me to conspiracies, and then that led me to flat earth, and that led me back to, the way of our world not being the way it has to be. We all just are born into this way of life that's evolved, we're told, over hundreds and thousands of years or whatever it is. And this is the only way, and it's the best way to live. But it's not. And I think no one can disagree with that. No one would... The thing is, well, unless you know, you don't know. Unless you're blind to all the suffering of the world. And I only know a fraction of it. If you were like God and you could see every single human being in one moment, and so you may see a lot of happiness, but you'll see a lot of sadness as well, and a lot of things that needn't be that way. They're that way because we're living this imperfect system, this imperfect society that we've created through time. I know I keep coming back to this, isn't it? I don't know how many of these podcasts I can make about the same thing and never actually get to a solution. That's my biggest worry. How do we change these things? And I'm sure there's people out there who are part of the system that will agree that, yeah, this world isn't the perfect place, but what can we do? Because it's easy for me to say, let's just get rid of money, but how do you convince like 300 different countries to do the same thing? That's the impossible thing. I mean, it's not impossible because they all do agree on certain things, isn't it? All the countries on this existence, this plane, this globe, this earth, whatever you want to call it, they all have certain things in common. They all have language, they all have society, they all have cultures, they all have languages, they all have schools, police, governments. They do have a lot of things, cars, TVs, that have come from different places but have been co-opted into their different countries. There's variations, but there's a lot of things that they've all agreed upon and that they've made part of their world, as it were. So it's not impossible, but I guess it took thousands of years to get to that state. It would take thousands of years and thousands of people to change it. And maybe we're just like beacons, as it were, that I'll be speaking and then some other people will listen. And not trying to big myself up. I mean, as a person, I'm talking, there's loads of people. Sheeps and Neeps, Stairs, Beyond the Imaginary Curve, Gav and Dal, Jamie Brown, Pete Shea, all these different people, Mel Beauregard, Rebecca and Dave, all these, Poncho Pete, whoever, all in their different styles, all with these beacons, and I guess from one becomes two, and then eventually, through time, maybe people will then start to change, and we will live the better life that we all deserve. Take care, take it easy. God bless and peace.